All right, so hey everybody, this is Aaron Maurer. It is almost 8 o'clock here, and this is the first session on First Lego League. We're just going to talk a little bit about the overview of First Lego League, just some basic ideas of logistics, strategies, tips, and ideas of how to navigate for a quality season. So before we jump into that, a couple of things that I think are important for those that are tall, and we can make this the most of our time here. We've already had a handful of questions already pushed in terms of directing this chat tonight, but in the Q&A of this form is where, if you are a viewer, you can post your questions and I'll be able to see that and I will respond when we go through this presentation. And so if you open up the Q&A, you can type in there at any point in time. I'll be able to see that, and then I will be sure to answer those questions as we go through this presentation. I'd like to go through just about 20 minutes or so, kind of a quick overview with tips and strategy and things I've put together, and then open it up to some Q&A there at the end. And so I see we're getting some more viewers here. And so the goal tonight is really to cover the basics of First Lego League, the logistics, the strategies, how do you organize your season, organize practices, how to make sense of everything. And then if there is time to dive deeper, we can. I'm looking at hosting another session strictly on coding and line follow programming and things of that nature, but we'll cover all that. So a couple things of note here, and I'm not sure on the viewer panel if you have the option to see the showcase tab, but in there I've put a lot of links in there, and I'll put it in the Q&A chat as well. But in the Q&A chat is a link, put it in right here as we speak, where you can go ahead and see everything there is to see for the First Lego League, the resource guide. So let's jump into this now as we go through. And like I said, please feel free to throw your questions in there. I'll be checking those as we go through. So I'm going to switch my screen over to screen share. Okay, so what we have here, this is just off my website here, coffeeforthebrain.com. Just a little bit about who I am. My name is Aaron Maurer. I work at Bettendorf Middle School. I'm an instructional coach now. Spent several years as a talent and gifted coordinator for grades 4 through 8 and taught 6th grade social studies. This is going to be my 7th year, I believe, maybe 8th year. It's all blended together of being a coach of First Lego League. We have 3 teams this year. We have 3 RoboDog teams that we've operated for quite some time. And we've been pretty fortunate to have some success both in robot and in research. We've had the opportunity to win states and compete internationally 4 or 5 years ago, and we've had a lot of good success just in general. And so one of the things that I went and posted and shared was this Symbaloo, and I'll be sure to share it out afterwards. What I've done is compiled a lot of things that I'm going to share with you tonight. You can see up here, there's just links to my website to have tutorials and guides and resources, and then the OneNote guide that we're going to be covering tonight. Over here is just a lot of examples of videos and things that we've done from our summer camps the last 2 years. A previous meeting on season strategy, and the information meeting of what we share with parents in case you're interested in that. Over here are just 4 books that we have in the makerspace, the Coffee Chug Cafe, that kids use and kind of get some ideas from if they need some inspiration. Kids rarely use books anymore, but they are in there. I put some information here in terms of the animal allies for the stuff this year. And these are tutorials, and I'm actually going to be building these out. My goal is to push 2 out a week. For the next several months to really challenge and push my own kind of teaching. And so I've got just real basic commands here if you're just getting started. I just updated these. These are 5 different ways to do line follow, and actually I'm going to have 2 more advanced programs coming out next week, and just some challenges to get going with some programming. So that's all there. But what a lot of you guys talked about saying that you needed when I sent out the Google form in terms of help, a lot of you talked about just the logistics in general in terms of how to get started, how to navigate your season, how to make all that stuff work. And so as I go through this here, in the Google Hangout, the chat there, if you have questions or want something clarified, make sure you just go ahead and type that in, and I'll make sure I address it as I go through. And all this stuff is in the OneNote for you to go back and look at. So what we've done, we're going to skip the season overview. So you're only seeing my profile pic. Are other people able to see the OneNote on my screen, or is it just one person? Can someone type in there in the chat? Let me know if you're able to see a cartoon figure of myself and a Lego board. I'm going to pause here just a second just to make sure that you guys actually can see everything, because that would be kind of a bust if you're not able to see my screen. Okay, so let's try this again here. Sarah, are you able to see my ugly mug right now? Okay. What about now? It shows that I'm projecting my screen, but you guys clearly aren't seeing it, and that's not good. That's going to be a bust if we can't see the screen here. Okay, what about now? Are we good now? Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Geez, technical glitch there. My fault. Okay, I apologize. All right, so here we are. As I said, this is in the OneNote. Now this is probably going to make a little bit more sense now you can actually see what I've been clicking on here the last couple times. So here we go. We're going to skip the beginning of the summer stuff because the summer's already in the past of us. So let's start right away here in September. In our case, we haven't started practice yet. We'll actually kick off our first practice tomorrow. The way we operate, and every team is different. I think that's the key, is you have to keep it and schedule it in a way depending on the age of your kids, your expectations for yourself, and just the logistics of your school or your neighborhood, depending on how you're operating it, to never lose sight that this is all about having fun. It's about learning and engaging kids and solving problems and 21st century skills and coding and programming and all that great stuff, but you can never lose sight of fun. We also believe heavily that this can't be their whole entire life. Kids need to be diverse and do several different things. So with that in mind, we practice 2 nights a week. We practice on Mondays and Thursdays, and we practice for 90 minutes. That is our team practice. We bring all 30-some kids in, the 10 from each of our teams, and then we break out and we have different agendas depending on where the kids are in the process. So with that being said, not losing sight of fun, I have this broken down into 2 strands. So let's take a look from September to November, what it means for the robot side of things. In First Lego League, hopefully by now you realize in your regional and state and competitions, there's 4 things you compete in. 1, you compete in what they consider core values. That's when your team goes in a room with judges. They are given a task that they don't know what it is until they go in the room, and they get set amount of time to solve the task working as a team. A lot of times they either can't talk or they have to use their bodies to make computers. There's all sorts of different kind of cool challenges for them. And then the judges watch how they interact and work together, and then ask them questions after all. The second thing is robot design. They're going to go in a room with judges and they're going to run their missions and explain their robot design. How the robot come to be, what's its name, what missions is it doing, what they learn, what they not learn. And so the kids have to be well-versed in actually what they did to the robot to make sure that indeed the kids were the ones in charge of the programming and were the ones in charge of building the robot and not, mom and dad on the side. The third one is obviously then the robot. They get 3 runs on the board. So you can see the board from last year. I believe this is last year's right here. You get 2.5 minutes to accumulate as many points as you can. Your top score is your high score. And then the last piece is your research, your innovative solution presentation. 5 minutes to present, 5 minutes for questions for the judges. So just to get that out of the air in case you weren't aware with that. So when we break down, we look at everything in terms of 2 agendas, our robot and our research. And in robotics, we set goals. That's the first thing that we do. And we're lucky, we have robotics in our middle school. So we have over 100 robots in our building, but we have 1,100 kids, so it's not as many as you might think. And what we do is we give 3 robots to each team. And we have them just learn how to build a basic robot working together. And they build this base bot in pairs. This gets them working in partners, gets them getting to know each other a little bit, because in our case, they come from 6 different elementaries and the middle school, building some bonds and testing out some ideas. During this time, we're studying the board. We're making sense of what the missions and challenges are, point values, building some of that structure. And then we start to see which robot body would allow us to add the attachments properly. And I have it here as a key tip. We document every single idea. One of the things that we've learned over time is if we don't document, kids will try the same thing over and over again, and it'll drive you absolutely insane. Then we decide on the teams which robot body that we want to go with, and we'll build 3 exact copies of that. One robot of those 3 will be our main competition bot. The other 2 are experiment bots, which we try different ideas. We come up with a strategy, and then we get going. Now that's quick in a nutshell. But basically what we do is we focus everything off computational thinking. So everything we do with the robot is based on these four principles right here. 1, decomposition. We break down the board. We study it. What are the manageable parts that we're actually going to be capable of doing with our team? And we start to chunk that down, because sometimes there's missions that we just know we're not going to get built into our robot or have time to do. The second thing we start to do is look at pattern recognition. We start to look at patterns and trends. What are the missions on the board that could maybe use the same attachment? These 3 are pull. These 4 are push. This one is a grab. This one needs this or that or whatever it might be. So we start to study pattern recognition to figure out, okay, so what could we get with this attachment while it's on the robot? Then we move into the abstraction and identifying the general principles. This is the coding piece. So if I know that I need to push, I need to understand that I need to know how to code motors to go forward or line follow or whatever it might be. And then the algorithm design is then to actually move from this prototype area of 2 and 3 and actually go make it happen. This is what we use for a whole entire process over and over. We don't use these big words. We chunk it down to obviously kid-friendly language, but this is how everything is structured. So for us, we don't have our boards yet. It's a glitch. Who knows when we're going to get them? They're telling us a couple weeks, which is really putting us behind. But we can study the board. We can start to come up with some ideas. And so when the mats do come, we can be ready to rock and roll. So the way this typically rolls out in a season for us in September, we are typically just building the base bots and pairs and building the boards themselves. We get in October and we start testing out the mission ideas. This is our October. And at the end of October into November is when we are doing this with the 3 copies of the robot, trying to get ready for our regional competition in December. So that's how that works with the robot. And if there's any questions on that, just throw a question there in the link. On the flip side, while we're working on a robot, we also have some research. And where'd it go? Oh, it's down here. And our research is probably where a lot of our time comes in. We tend to use most of our practice on our Mondays and Thursday nights for research, because the robot, the kids can come in before and after school, study hall. Sometimes we'll host things on the weekends. where they can come in and work. But the researchers really need everybody to get on the same page. And so we just follow the process that comes in the manual for the first Lego League. And they've got some new updates in it this year. If you've coached before, some really good tips. So I was reading through it today. What they're telling you now with animal allies is just to choose an animal and study how do people interact with the animal, what kind of interactions help or hurt, what professionals and people work with the animal, and then what of those interactions could be improved. And so setting the goals there, and we just brainstorm as many lists as we can. We open up a Google Doc and we just hammer out, and we'll get 50, 60 ideas. And then each person on the team will go back and gather information about the topic of their choice. We're not coming up with the problem yet, just gathering facts to enlighten us, and in this case, the animal itself. And then we'll narrow that down and try to get a team to get it down to 3 ideas. So in this case, there's going to be 3 different animals that we want to focus on. Then the people will give their pitches, and then the team does a team voting to come to a consensus of where they want to go. During that time or quickly after, we start doing field trips. We start getting out. We start talking with people. We start getting on the phone, and we start trying to identify what that problem and what our solution can be. And so we believe in prototyping, building, testing, making all that happen. And then once we kind of have that idea, usually by then a theme kind of pops up, and we start to script writing, and we start doing the props and memorizing lines. And we start to get out and try to present to as many people as we possibly can. And so looking at September, the month of September, we will probably get to here, steps 1 through 4 of everybody gathering facts and sharing those out. The end of September, we'll narrow that down early first week of October to 3. And then we spend the rest of October doing this. We get into, doing the field trips and prototype designs. November, we do the script writing, the prop making. We start presenting in November, and then we get ready for December in our competition. And so there's a lot on the kids' shoulders when we get going on this. Even though we only have 3 hours of practice a week, we figured probably in a regular season from September, if we make it to state in January, kids are putting in 300 hours into the whole entire process as a whole, doing stuff at home, coming in early before and after school, things like that. Not every kid invests that much time, and not everybody in our teams do that. And so some teams are more successful than others, but that's what we're really after. So if there's any questions on that, let me know. I know it's already 8:17. I want to make sure we've got some time. We get to 8:30 here for you to really hammer out questions. But if there's any questions on those 2 things, let me know. I'll be looking. But I want to move on to just a couple other tips, because a lot of your questions were really focused on getting started and logistics and things of that nature. One of the things that I think is so important, the most important thing that we have is parent communication. So for us, because our practices are late at night, because the kids have so many things going on, we believe in keeping the parents informed. I send out a newsletter each week showcasing what we've been doing in practice, what we're stuck on, what we're working on, what we're trying to do to help them understand it. And you can see in this OneNote, I have some examples. I use Sway and push those out just so you can kind of see what those look like. I probably send 3 to 5 emails out a week, just keeping people up to date with things that are going on. But I believe that this is a family. And we always tell people, if you're a RoboDog, you're part of the RoboDog family. We're all in it together. We need the parents for transportation, and we need the parents sometimes to help us with field trips. And so we try to help them play a role within that process. So one of the questions that came through that I can cover now that won't distract too much is how many kids per team. You're allowed up to 10 kids on a team. If you have more than that, you're allowed to. You just can't qualify for any awards. And so we have 10 on our teams. Our young team has a little bit less this year, but usually it's 10 is what we have. 10 is a lot of kids to navigate. It's a lot of kids to get, if we go back here to the script writing to get 10 speaking lines and 10 kids and props. And so it does become more of a challenge, but we really want every single kid that wants to be part of this to really shine. We believe, doing this many years, it's the speaking and getting up in front of people and believing in an idea that's so important. The robot sells, but the robot really, if you break it down, is 25% of the competition. The other 75% is speaking. You have to talk about your robot. You have to tell and communicate your ideas to engineers. You have to sell your ideas as a research. You have to go in core values and work together as a team. And so those things are so important. And so that's where the real value is. And then, yes, you'll have access to all this stuff on the site. I'll post it all out afterwards. And I'll show you where it is here in just a minute. So getting those parents involved, because they're the ones that'll help you. They're the ones that can help their kids practice. We already had a parent that's actually opening up their house this weekend for a team get-together to kind of bond, and they're going to go bowling and things like that. As a coach, we're not going to be part of that because it's just a team bonding. They're our older team. But it's those types of things that really kind of gel the kids together. The other thing that's really exciting, if you've been to a competition, T-shirt designs or hat designs, kids love to get these props and things going. So every year we do a T-shirt design contest. Kids can draw and sketch or find things online, and we have a new shirt. For us, all three teams will have the same shirt because even though we have three teams, we believe in unity, that we are one team, but just due to the rules, we have to split into 3 squads. But this is a really exciting part. I've seen teams every year come up with a different name every year, which is fine for us. We stick with RoboDogs. That's kind of a non-negotiable. It's kind of, we want you to be proud to be a RoboDog, but we change our designs every single year. That's just a fun little thing. You see all sorts of different trinkets and things that kids will create when it comes to the regionals. It's just an awesome opportunity for Grace's professionalism, take pride in what they do, and have a lot of fun with it. A couple of other tips. This one here in terms of research. Make them prove it. So if a kid has an idea, so you're talking your brain, so the kid's like, ooh, well, what about this? This would be so awesome. Our answer every time is prove it. Go do it. So last year we had one of our teams had this idea for a tray utensil. It was for actually ended up being a tray that would hold your fork and spoon as it went through a school dishwasher. Really pretty clever idea. But before that, we were talking about doing art with recyclable plastic spoons and forks in the cafeteria. And so we had them prove it, and they went through and made all these. And it took a ton of time. These guys put a lot of time and effort into it. And then they realized that it actually didn't solve the problem because we reused forks and spoons that were going to be thrown away. But in the end, you're going to throw this piece of artwork away, and therefore you didn't solve any problem. And so make them prove it. Make them build it, show you, document it, because until they do, they don't really understand what goes into the research itself. And I think when we say research, kids tend to cringe because it feels like school, and it's not. This is being innovative, and who knows, they might get a patent one day. We came close. We almost did go for a patent last year, but we held off. 2 quick tips on practice. Always have an agenda. So we always have on our board an agenda for the night. We have a plan, and these are based on what the teams need. And so we'll have 3 teams, and we'll have 3 different kind of things going on because they're obviously working at different stages of the game. So we have kids map out their missions, and we have them posted up on the board. You can see these here, and they lay it all out, and they keep track of what they're working on and things that they're doing. We believe wholeheartedly that as a coach, we don't do any of the work. We are completely hands off. Now with that, it makes you want to bang your head against the wall because there's times where the kids will just constantly they'll grind on something forever and ever and ever. So you try to give them encouragement, but you have to let them learn. That's how they're going to learn. They won't learn if we do it all for them. And so as much as that is difficult to do and sometimes bite your tongue, it's part of the journey, and that's where we see the growth. As we work with kids as a 5th grader, by the time we see them as 8th grader, they're not making those mistakes anymore. We give them a structure based on what we're watching them do and what they're able to accomplish, and each night they have a goal that they're trying to get after. They'll document that, and then we'll say, okay, so what do we need for the next practice? And you can kind of see those agendas there. We always take a picture and we keep a running log so we can make sure that we're moving along at a proper pace. But then it's really up to the kids to take that ownership in it. The other piece that's so important, and we've had teams that this has not gone well and they suffered the consequence, and teams that really got it figured out and it works well, is this piece of teamwork. Everything's got to be consensus. If the whole team's not in on an idea, you can't move forward. And so we have teams of 10. So there's some very tense, stressful nights trying to come to a conclusion, trying to get, a fifth, sixth, and seventh and eighth graders to come together on one idea, but we believe in it and we believe that they have to do it all together. And so it gets sloppy and it gets messy, but that's how they learn. If we want them to be able to problem solve and communicate and critical think and be those problem solvers in real life, we have to give them those experiences themselves and not hold their hand and walk them through it. And so as much as that can be cumbersome, you need to keep doing that. Now, there's time when we get into like November, we will start to separate them out into smaller groups because we can't afford to have 10 people staring at a robot. But early on, we keep them all together so they kind of build that bond together and understand that they are in it for both of them. The last couple of things, I guess, and then for us, December is competition. At that point, we're just doing a lot of practice and rehearsal, getting ready for the regionals to see if we can have some success, in which we've been pretty lucky to do. And at this point, I'm just going to skip. I'm not going to worry about state and all that because that's not really of a concern at this stage in the game. The other things that are important, I talked about parents earlier, and I'm going to talk about it again. Bring them in. We have a night where the kids showcase and explain the board to parents so they understand what it is we're talking about. We're saying like, nothing can touch the shark, they need to know what that is. We sit down and explain the research. We brainstorm. When the kids have an idea, we bring the parents in, and the kids have to pitch their ideas and get parent feedback. The parents also become our guinea pigs when we practice live. We go to our school board. We go to anybody that will listen. We will practice. We've practiced in front of Lieutenant Governor a couple of times, STEM events, anywhere we can get kids out talking, because that's what it's about. We stick them in those moments. Document everything. As we talk with experts and speak with people, we're always taking pictures, we're recording the audio, we're making video. We never know when we might need something, and so we're always trying to document everything. Same thing with the robot. Every practice, the goal is for them to take a picture so we can see how it progresses. Now, they're not always very good at remembering to do that, but that's what we're after. And the key here is students have to do everything. They've got to be the ones that make the decisions. They got to be the ones that if they don't do something, it's because they chose not to do it. And so there's some tough lessons here, but this is where they learn, and this is when it happens. And so I can't emphasize this piece enough. And the last one, I won't play these videos, but we got to have fun. You can't lose sight of that. These kids are in school all day. These are amazing kids. They're wonderful. They're intelligent. They're happy. They're just wonderful to be around. And you don't want First League to be something where it feels like work. It feels like homework. You want them to come in and be challenged. You want to push them out of their comfort zone. But we can't lose sight of what it's all about, and that's to have fun. And through that, that's where the secret opportunities are hidden inside every failure. Kids struggle when things don't work. Kids struggle when your robot's been working a mission's been working for 2 months every single time, and then 3 days before the regional, it doesn't work anymore. That's where we have to dig deep, and we learn about who we are as people. I can't emphasize again, you've got to practice and practice and practice and just keep practicing over and over again. And the more you practice, we know the better off we're going to be. And whether you get trophies and move on to state or you don't, the journey never ends. And so we had a hashtag Tire Challenge. This group did not get any hardware, win anything at state, but their project has inspired schools all over, and they've been sharing all over. We're still getting messages of people using their ideas. And to me, that's more important than bringing home a Lego trophy. And so if you keep sharing and gracious professionalism and doing something to impact the lives of others, that's where it's at. So here we are. We're at 8:30, and I want to be cognizant of your time. What other questions do you have? I know that's just kind of a quick overview. What I have in here while you're typing in some questions, I'm willing to keep going here for another 15 minutes. of Q&A for tonight. But in this OneNote, I have examples of how to do programming from simple to more complex. I've got things where I brainstorm summer camp ideas, just some general resources, and some further reads to get you going. I also, because obviously my screen was blocked earlier, which wasn't going to do you any good, I put together this Symbaloo, which I'll also share out with you. And this has a lot of stuff, so I can explain it again. These are links to my website that have videos and all the resources we've talked about. This here is the OneNote that I just shared. It looks like you guys can't see that again, so hold on here. All right, so here's that OneNote guide that I was just referencing here just a little bit ago. These are resources to the animal allies for this year, an online score, and a lot of times we'll just post this up on the overhead projector so kids can do their scores as we get going. These are basic tutorials I made a couple years ago, but down here I just loaded these two up, or these 5 yesterday and today. 5 different ways to line follow, from the super simple basic to using data blocks and loop interrupt blocks. I'm actually going to be pushing 2 more out here over the next week that are even a little bit more advanced, but can make your life easier if you use them. Some other just challenges that you can put in your class or with your group just for a break in the action. These are just examples from previous years. I need to load up some more of these. I've got a ton of video that I should push out. And these are summer camp ideas, books that we have on hand in the Coffee Chug Cafe. And so I'll post this out here for you as well. A great question about how to find out where regional competitions are located. I can only speak on behalf of Iowa, so hopefully, Chrissy, you're in Iowa. Otherwise, this answer isn't going to help you. But in Iowa, Iowa State will send out first Lego League blasts. You'll get them here starting soon once your team's registered through First Lego League. If you've got your team registered, and if not, I can show you where that is. But once you do, they get notified because they operate all the teams in the state of Iowa, and they'll give you a link. And what will happen? This is pretty important stuff here. For the regionals in Iowa, they're first come, first serve. And so they're going to tell you on this day at 5 p.m., all the regionals are going to open up. And there's like 14 of them. As soon as they fill up, that's it. They're sold out. So like I'm in the Quad Cities. There's a Saturday and Sunday event, and they host 32 teams on each day. And those sell out literally in 5 minutes. So with 3 teams last year, we ended up we headed up to Dubuque one day, and then we did squeeze into the Quad City ones. And so it's important, if you have one local and that's where you want to go, that when that registration comes out, you want to be ready to go and sign up as fast as you can. And that will come from Iowa State. And it'll come out with an email, and those will start rolling out. The emails will start coming out here in another week or so, probably. And then those show up usually like in November. End of October, you'll get that registration thing, and they'll give you a ton of reminders of when that's going to be. And some of the regionals are as early, they're in November. And so if you don't get the ones you want, sometimes you get stuck doing your regional, in second week in November, which we would never, ever be ready for. But that's a great question. Other questions that people have, or that they want to know why I have you on this call here. Yes, another great question. Share it to the Symbaloo. I'll share it. I accidentally shared the wrong link earlier this morning, and I didn't want to blast everybody one more time because I've already done that too much. And so I will post all this out. What I'm going to plan on doing for those that are listening is I'm going to write up a blog post. I'll have a video recording of this session, and then I will have the link to the Symbaloo, to the OneNote, and to my website page that has all this with everything that you need, and I'll push that out. But that'll all be on my website. It'll be out. I'll get it out tomorrow. Just coffeeforthebrain.com. It'll be a blog post tomorrow on here with all that, and then I'll share it out to all the places I've been sharing. So I'll make sure you have that. I apologize that Symbaloo did not go through earlier. And I don't know if you guys have access to I put a bunch of links in the showcase in this Hangout, but I don't know what that looks like from the viewer perspective. To me, they're all on the right-hand side, but that's also where the chat is. So other questions? Okay, so maybe this is what we can do here. One of the things that I think might be helpful is a couple people are asking about programming. And so if people are interested in it, if you are, maybe just type something over in the questions, or you can email me at some point. I'm willing to run another session where we could sit down and I can walk you through some programming. I know you kind of get the overview, and I think once you get going and you have questions, I have no problem helping you out, or even Skyping or hanging out with you one-on-one when your season gets going to help you with that, because I know it's a lot to kind of take in. But I'm also more than willing to do a session on programming if that's something that people would like. I can schedule that, and we can make that work as well. I think sometimes seeing that and walking through should help. Sarah, try it again. I think I check marked the wrong thing. They should all be popping up now. So good question too on a play type project or other project ideas. In terms of presentation, I think is what you're referring to, Don. I've seen a lot of different things. Most of them, we typically have a skit of some sort, but I've seen teams do it very well where they have, an actual kind of very professional looking presentation where they're just sharing their facts and laying out their proof, almost like it kind of reminds me of like a science experiment. If you think of it that way, where there isn't maybe that skit factor, but keep in mind the rubrics, and I don't think it's in the main manual, but what you're going to want to make sure that you take care of, and let's see if I can pull it up here. The rubrics, you want to make sure you have all the categories covered. And in there, typically there is, unless they change it this year, which I doubt they'll change it too much. There's a thing for like creativity and flair and things like that. And so you just want to make sure that you go through and have all those components within your presentations when you go to do that. However, doing that. So let's see, I can pull this up here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's switch this over here real quick, because it's a great question. It's one that I think can get overlooked by a lot of people. So these are the rubrics. These are on the First Lego League website, and I'll make sure I put it on the Simblue for you. But the project is right here. So these are the things that you have to have. And so when we work with kids, we talk about the rubric. We make them self-check themselves with this. You have to identify the problem, your source of information, 4 different types. So an expert, a website, things like that. The problem analysis, the thing that's key here, it goes into this one. The kids have to know what solutions already exist. So many times that gets left out, and we've suffered by not explaining that enough. But the kids really need to know everything that's on the market, so they can prove that their idea is actually innovative, which is this next section right here. That it's clear, the degree, consideration of factors. But here's where I want to talk about, Don, a little bit, this creativity. So you've got to think about how you want to weave that in there. The sharing and the effectiveness, but this has to come out. And obviously this is, subjective to the judges that you have. And we've had judges that loved our jokes and ideas and then turn around to another set of judges and they didn't find anything humorous or pleasant at all. But this is what you've got to get in there. So however you want to do it, most people end up doing like a skit or a play type thing. But I've seen a mixture of both, a short little skit and then right into your meat and potatoes. And so leave it up to the kids. I mean, we had 3 different, each of our robot teams have to do a different research idea. We don't let them copy one another. So we had one that kind of replicated the Breakfast Club. The problem was I don't think the judges that we had were even aware of the Breakfast Club movie and therefore did not get any of the references and didn't find it the least bit humorous or creative at all. The kids wanted that really, really bad. As a coach, we kind of suggested other things, but that's what they wanted, and it's their project. And so earlier when I talked about sometimes you want to bang your head against the wall, we thought there was a clever idea of doing it, but that's what they were sold on, and so we support that. And as long as they can get through and showcase all those other things in which they're able to do, and then it's just up to them to deliver. So I hope that's helpful for you on that question there. All right, we're getting close to time here. If there's any other questions, feel free to chime those in, and I will check here one more time, and otherwise we'll make it a wrap. And what I'll probably do if people are interested in another session, or if you just want to connect at some point, or you want me to help your team in any sort of capacity, you can always just reach out to me, and I'd be more than willing to help out. As you get going in the season, we can always reach out again and touch base. So to close here, I hope that you found this helpful. I thank you for taking time to jump in on this hangout, this chat. If there's other ideas or suggestions that you have, if you're a coach and you're listening in going, well, I do it this way, or I have a better way or a better suggestion, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to add that piece to it, because I think the more that we can crowdsource and share and help one another, the better off everybody's going to be. And most importantly, the kids will benefit, and that's what it's about. There's not too many things in my life or in my teaching career that I've stuck with this long, and the reason is because I believe in it. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I believe I've seen the development of working with kids over the course of 3 or 4 years, and it's a great program. And so the more that I can support it, the better. I hope you have a great season. If you're already off and running, or you're thinking about getting up and going, wherever you are, best of luck, and we'll be in touch. I'll send out some stuff tomorrow. I'll push it out on my website, but then push it out on the GiftServe and Edmodo and everywhere else on Twitter and Facebook, so you can have all that. And if you have any questions off those resources, honestly, feel free to reach out as many times as you need. I have no problem helping. So with that being said, I thank you. I don't see any other questions here popping up, so we're going to call tonight. I appreciate it. Take care. Best of luck. Let's stay in contact, and let's make sure we stay gracious professionalisms among ourselves as educators and lead the way for our students. And hopefully I see you at a regional or state if you're in Iowa, and we'll connect soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.